Hello and welcome to BBC World News. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas will not meet the US Vice President Mike Pence when he visits Cairo later this month. That is according to the Palestinian Foreign Minister. It comes amid rising tensions in the region after Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. 4 people are now known to have died in the violence since that announcement. There have been Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Israeli authorities say they were retaliating after rockets were fired from Hamas military positions into Israel. Sebastian Usher reports.
The Palestinians are continuing to show their anger over President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. There have been more clashes in Bethlehem as students held protest rallies. Yesterday was the first day of rage declared by the Palestinians. 2 protesters were killed in confrontation with Israeli troops in Gaza. Many more were wounded across the Palestinian territories by tear gas, rubber bullets and live rounds. Hamas has called for a new Palestinian uprising or intifada.
We announced that in the face of the invaders, Israel and the United States, we will launch protests everywhere, in and out of Palestine. Starting from today, there will be no route to retreat, no red line for us.
Overnight, the Israeli military says its airstrikes targeted a base of the military wing of Hamas, killing 2 of its members. The attack came after rockets were fired towards Israel from Gaza. But the level of violence so far appears containable as far as Israel is concerned. But international criticism of Mr. Trump's move has not been muted. Many other protests were held across the Arab and Muslim world. Top officials from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have warned today that the move has given extremists a new lease of life. There is almost no support so far for President Trump's view that the long moribund peace process needed a shock to the system. And scepticism over Mr. Trump's much vaunted new initiative for peace, due to be unveiled in the new year, is only growing as the immediate consequences of his actions play out in Gaza and the West Bank. Sebastian Usher, BBC News.
Well, let's get into some of those issues now. With me is Oliver McTurnan, Conflict Resolution Specialist and Director of Forward Thinking. That's an organisation working to promote peace in the Middle East. Oliver, good to have you with us in the studio. So, we now know Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian president, won't meet the US Vice President Mike Pence. The Coptic Orthodox Pope has said he won't meet Mike Pence. Is there much point in the visit by Mike Pence going ahead at all? Can it achieve anything?
I don't think there is, because I think it's a very ill-timed visit in light of this recent declaration, and extremely insensitive, because the expectation that they would go and meet him after the president failing completely to acknowledge any Palestinian claim or right over Jerusalem, it's unthinkable.
It's interesting, though, because in the comments that President Trump made, he said that the US still wants to help support the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians. And his view was that actually keeping this ambiguity and kicking into the long grass the status of Jerusalem has not brought about peace in the past decades. So does he have a point that maybe in the long term this could put that issue to rest or not?
Well, first of all, Ben, I don't think there is a peace process. So I think he's deluding himself to think that in some way he's going to speed up a process. Secondly, the peace process as we knew it was very much based on the UN Resolution 181, which talked about Jerusalem being settled on agreement between the 2 sides, you see. So effectively what he's done is ignored the history and said, right, we start from scratch. That would be fine if he had some sort of plan, A, to support and encourage Palestinian unity. He's not. And secondly, to encourage Bibi Netanyahu actually to engage with real intent in a peace process. Now, neither of those things are in place. So I think it's wishful thinking that somehow by deciding on Jerusalem, it's going to spark off something new and something that will deliver.
So that's sort of the peace process issue. Just looking at the immediate effect of that declaration by President Trump, a rather ominous warning from Saudi Arabia and former head of the Saudi intelligence service, Prince Turki Al-Faisal, warning that this could be oxygen, will be oxygen for radical groups who will be, as in his words, difficult to handle. And this is a man who has a pretty good grasp on these matters and a traditional US ally.
Yeah, and I think Prince Turki is perfectly right, because basically what has happened in the last few days, the US has played into the narrative of the militant jihadi Salafi groups. You know, that their narrative was that Israel was placed there to be an obstacle in the achievement of the caliphate stretching from Africa to Asia. And therefore, you know, they'll say, look, this is proof. Every time there is a possibility of progress or whatever, America acts in a way that actually just props up or ensures its presence in the region. So I think he's right. I don't think someone like Prince Turki would make a statement like that just as a off-the-cuff remark.
OK, Oliver, really good to get your thoughts and analysis. Oliver McTurnan there, thank you.
Thanks.